Welcome. The postures in this Yin Yoga sequence will include both sides of half butterfly pose, both sides of cattail pose, both sides of half saddle pose, and baby frog pose, which is better known as wide-legged child's pose. So gather up as many props as you need. Again, padding like blankets and pillows, always a good idea if you happen to have a yoga bolster or even a couch cushion. Might be a good idea to have that around. Even a strap might be handy for cattail pose. The theme for class will be a cultivation of this notion that a fundamental characteristic of life is change. The Buddhist word for that is anicca. The practice starts by taking a comfortable seat. I'm sitting cross-legged. You can sit cross-legged too if that works for you. But it's any kind of seat to start class. The idea is to cultivate a sense of focus and attention on what's going on in the present moment. And a part of that is called centering and grounding. You're just saying, okay, here, I'm here right now, and you're noticing what the now is. And since the theme for this practice is change, you'll notice that even the present moment is not static. You can maybe feel a wind current on your skin. You can maybe hear noises that are changing in your environment. You can feel your breath, which is always a good thing to notice and to maintain during a yoga practice. And you notice that your breath doesn't remain static. It's constantly changing. It has to change to go through cycles. And you just take this beginning part of practice to notice that. But once you've settled into this seat, our first yoga exercise will be some simple neck rolling. But maybe first, create some integrity in your torso. So bring your spine to neutral. Maybe roll your shoulders back. Crown of your head tries to lift up towards the ceiling just for a moment. And then very gently tuck your chin towards your sternum here as far as it goes till it stops, sure. And then we'll slowly begin to just kind of roll our head from one side to another. So slowly kind of rock your head over one shoulder and then very slowly bring it back to center. Slowly rock it over the other shoulder, maybe pause, and then bring it back to center. And if this brings about intense sensations, this is maybe all you need to do here. And notice as you slowly rock your head back and forth, how the sensations change because, of course, you're moving your head and your neck into a different orientation. And that probably creates a slightly different type of sensation somewhere else in your shoulders or your neck or in your head here. If it's okay and you want to go a little bit deeper, you can make complete circles. So once you get over one shoulder, if you think it's okay for your neck, maybe just roll all the way back and around. Slow, deliberate circles, so you can really sense and feel the slight little sensations that are created that maybe get really intense, and then maybe they disappear as you continue to move your head and your neck. If you're making big neck circles, at some point maybe change directions, go the other way. So this is already getting a sense in a yoga practice of the fact that change is happening all the time. This is more obvious because we're moving something. We're moving our head and our neck around, and we can feel the change in the orientation of our head in the sensations that creates. At some point, bring your chin back to your sternum and slowly lift your head. Maybe go up tall here. We'll do some seated twists here while we're seated. So if wherever you're at, extend your arms on either side, and then on an inhale, make a big sweeping circle with your arms as you sweep them up overhead till your hands meet here. And then as you exhale, begin to slowly lower your extended arms back down and start to twist to one side here. The front arm maybe reaches over, and if you're sitting cross-legged, you can put your hand on your thigh or your knee. back arm is behind you, kind of rooting into the ground, grow up tall through your torso. And then see if you can twist. Maybe on an exhale, it's nice to twist. See if you can go a little bit deeper. You can keep your head and neck nice and neutral if your head and neck are kind of worn out from the neck rolling. Otherwise, if you want to give another stretch to your neck, maybe look over your back shoulder here. And then gently bring yourself back to center. Arms extend out to either side. Inhale, arms come up, big sweeping circle. And then slowly lower the arms as you twist to the other side here. And then a couple of nice slow breaths here as you get up nice and tall on an inhale, maybe to create more space in the torso to make it easier to twist. And then gently twist, find your edge here. So you're twisting till you feel that stopping point here. And then decide what you want to do with your head and your neck. It can stay neutral or look over that back shoulder here. And then slowly bring yourself back, a little bit of a counter twist. One more exercise before we get into the long-held yin postures, and we'll do a toe squat with some shoulder work here. So the first thing to do, we'll do this in stages just to see how intense this gets. We'll start out on hands and knees, and if your knees are sensitive for being on all fours, remember, you can always get some padding, like a blanket. Put extra padding underneath your knees here. We'll try to flex our feet and kind of get a nice stretch in the bottoms of our feet. So notice I'm flexing my feet, putting my toes on the ground, and trying to make sure that I get all 10 toes, which are kind of hard to do here. And the first thing to do is to slowly move my hips back to create more intensity in the feet here. And maybe you find a stopping point here for you, in which case this is what you do, and maybe you just hold this for a few breaths and just breathe into the intensity in the bottoms of your feet here. For those of you who can, maybe you can come all the way to sit up on your heels here, or you can maybe even kneel here if you can't make it all the way back onto your heels. Notice how that feels. You can stay here as long as you want. For some of us, we're already done with this exercise. Or you can include a shoulder stretch. We can make eagle arms while we're marinating in our feet here. So you could extend arms out wide, shoulder height, and then sweep your right arm underneath your left, cross above the elbows, bend at the elbows and make your version of eagle arms. So maybe your hands come to your shoulders. Maybe you can clasp fingers, or maybe you can wrap your forearms and make nice eagle arms here. So elbows move forward and up until you're stuck. Not till you're in pain, but just to where emotion stops here. And then feel that tension, that pressure that's created in your shoulders, your shoulder blades here. And just maybe stay here for one more breath before releasing. Notice how your feet are doing. If they need to be released, go ahead and release them. Otherwise we've got the other side of this shoulder exercise. So sweep the left arm underneath the right this time. Find your version of eagle arms here. And then again, extend the elbows forward and up until you have enough intensity. Just notice that. Maybe there's a little bit of toning in your abdomen, in your core, just to maintain a nice spine here. That's a little bit of a yang exercise. And then again, go ahead and release your version of eagle arms. If you still have the curled feet under, come back to all fours, release your feet, and you can maybe even tap the feet out a little bit here. And then we'll move into the first long held yin posture, which is the first side of half butterfly. So for half butterfly, come to seated, both legs out in front. And if you have a lot of tightness in the backs of your legs or your back body, maybe it's a good idea to sit up on a little bit of height. In fact, I've heard arguments that even if you're an ultra flexible person, it might be a good idea to sit up on a little bit of height. But you're moving by feel here. So if something is feeling better with or without a prop, then by all means try that first. Legs are out in front for half butterfly. Bend the left knee and lower the left knee out to the left side. Notice if that left knee gets really achy. If it does, then put something under it to give it some support, some stability here. Draw the heel in as far as it goes until it stops. For some of us, maybe it doesn't stop until it makes it to the hip. Maybe for some of us, it stops long before it makes it to the hip. This is part of establishing our edge here. So the other leg is straight. Right leg's extended, straight in quotes here. The right leg can actually have a bend in it, and you can actually put padding under this knee to keep it from getting too painful here. So this is the setup for half butterfly. Half butterfly is a forward bend. So once you have all of this, and if this is intense enough, then this is your pose. You just stay here for a few minutes. But if you want to add some more intensity and the forward bend, then for a moment, go up tall through your torso, and then lean forward, and then begin to relax all the muscles in your torso. So you're letting your torso just kind of round and sag here, so that the muscles can be released here. And you go as far as you go. Who knows how that is? Maybe you try to go forward and you go about this far. And this is actually really intense for you. If you have something like a bolster, you can take the bolster and you can actually, this is a pretty firm bolster, I can actually use it to just rest my head on it here as a nice support. You can use it other ways if you tend to go farther here. Or if it's feeling okay, you can just hang where you're at here. So you're kind of folding over this front leg again. The leg can be as straight as it wants to be. You're actually trying to relax the leg. So if the leg I'm externally rotated, and so my leg wants to do this. So this is fine. I want to get more intensity in the bottom of my leg. So one of my personal hacks is I take my arm and I use it as a prop. I stuff that arm right next to the leg so that when I relax the muscles in my leg, it stays kind of upright. So I'm doing that with my arm, not my leg here. And then I go as far as I go. This is where we'll stay. We'll stay here for about 3 minutes. 1 minute, 2 minutes is fine. 5 minutes is fine. Remember, this is a video, so you can pause it at any time here, or just ignore it if you want to stay longer here. It's also okay to let this leg roll out if you're externally rotated. Maybe you're internally rotated and the leg wants to roll in. And that's fine too. So you're trying to find kind of your natural shape in this posture, your natural stopping point. And then feeling that stopping point. You're feeling the sensations, the pressures, the tensions, the stuckness, whatever kind of word you have for this. The point to this class is kind of talking about words and their definitions. We're going to talk about the word Anicca. So the word Anicca is a Buddhist word, and it's a word that they use to describe what they consider to be a fundamental quality characteristic of life and existence, and that is everything is always changing. Everything changes. The more rigorous definition, or another word that maybe more closely describes what Anicca means, is impermanence. So an impermanence very primitively just means everything that has a beginning has an ending. If something begins, it will end. And that's another way to state change, is that things will never remain constant forever. Something will happen so that it'll be different. And that's something to explore off our yoga mat, but also on the mat. You'll notice that after a few minutes here, even though we think nothing has changed, things have changed. Your sensations might be slightly different. Your body might have slightly sunk more deeply into the posture. So particularly if you really have the muscles relaxed here. So we're already getting kind of a feel for, even when we're not trying to change things just kind of naturally change on their own. And this is correct. This is what happens. This is a quality of practice. It's a quality of practice because it's a quality of just being human here. So we'll stay here for just a couple more breaths here. If you want to, notice if there's any kind of muscles that are clinging to your current position, and see if you can use your breath to let those muscles soften into a deeper version of this pose, because they're coming out, we're changing. This pose is changing. So when you're ready, if you're in the forward fold, plant your hands and slowly press yourself up. Grow your spine long here, which means bring it back to a nice neutral position. And maybe work out kinks by little wiggles and motions in your torso. Maybe you'd like to do some side bends or some twists, or even a back bend here. Maybe your legs are done with this half butterfly position. So tenderly bring that left leg up, extended out front. Wiggle and move the legs around a little bit to just get blood circulation back in the legs, because we now have the other side of half butterfly to do. So for this side, it'll be the right knee that bends. So both legs out long. And then it's the other knee. So whatever knee you did first, it's the other knee that bends. Lower the other knee to the side. Prop it if you need to. Draw the heel in until the sensations tell you to stop. This is the part about establishing our edge. Left leg is extended. It doesn't need to be straight. It's okay if it's straight. And then muscles are relaxed. So maybe the left leg rolls out to the side, or maybe it stays naturally, or maybe it rolls to the inside. I don't know, I don't have your body, but you can notice when you relax. If you want, like I said, I like to get the tension in the back of my leg. So I kind of want my leg to stay straight, so I use a prop, and I use my arm as the prop. So when I fold forward, I stuff my arm along the side of this leg to use it as an inert prop to keep this leg from folding out. But again, it's also okay to just let it fold out to the side here. And then you can either fold forward, or if you're getting enough sensation, you can just maintain a nice neutral spine. So we'll go through the three principles of the mechanics of practice here. The first principle is called finding your edge. That's all of this discussion as to where your body needs to be. And the answer is you're moving by feel. So there's no way for me to tell you where the correct position of your body needs to be in. You need to feel that out on your own here. And it takes practice. You have to do this a while to understand. It's like, oh, okay, this is a good edge because I'm not in pain, I'm not hurting myself here. But I do feel something here, right? And this is a good edge for my body. Second principle is called stillness. Once we found that edge, we decide to stay for a while. Decide to be still. Still doesn't mean static. Still just means we're not jumping up and down out of the posture. We're just deciding to reside in the posture. The third principle is time. Once we're here, now we just notice. Now we just pay attention. Now we just focus to the sensations, the pressures, and how they change with time. And it's not just the physical sensations. You're noticing what your mind is up to, what your emotions are up to. You might notice that your mind is changing, your thoughts are changing. Maybe they're racing. Maybe your emotions are changing. One minute you're feeling one way, and another minute you're feeling another way. And this is all normal. This is all the way it actually does work. Nothing is constant. Or maybe we feel we are stuck. It's like my brain is always racing. It always feels like it's stuck on thinking about one thing. And the answer is probably not. Probably at some point your brain actually does shift gears and thinks about something else for a while. Here. But just a couple more breaths here on this side of half butterfly. Maybe think about your breath here and what quality of the breath is. And then slowly bring yourself up. Slowly bring this knee up. Extend it forward. Maybe there's some little movements that you'd like to do to work out the kinks. I'm going to suggest a yang, a counter pose. So this is a core engager known as the hinge maneuver. So for the hinge maneuver, you'll make your way slowly onto your back. And then bend your knees, bring them into your chest, and extend your legs up towards the ceiling to make this kind of waterfall or L shape here. Bring your arms, extend them along your sides, palms face down, root your arms into the ground, and then really activate the muscles in your core to create stability. So maybe not 100% engagement, but you definitely know your muscles are engaged here. And then very slowly over the course of a couple or maybe even 3 breaths, slowly try to lower your legs, extended legs with control, until at some point your heels touch down. And then at some point, we'll move into the next yin posture. Next yin posture actually starts on our back. It's cattail pose. I'm going to switch around here, face the other way here. So for cattail pose, you'll start lying on your back, legs extended. We'll do this in stages here to find your version of cattail pose. So the first thing to do is, this time, just raise one leg up. Raise the right leg up towards the ceiling, extended. Doesn't have to be straight, but as straight as you can get it here. And then lower the right leg over to the left until the right foot is on the ground. And then shift your body so that you're on your left side. Left side of your leg, left side of your torso can rest your head into your left hand here. This is stage 1 for cattail. If you feel a lot here, this is where you stay. Stage 2 is to bend your left knee and reach back with your right hand to see if you can find your left foot here. Get a little bit of a thigh stretch here. If you can't reach your foot and you really want to reach your foot, you don't really have to reach your foot, but if you do and you can't normally reach it with your hand, then this is where you get a strap. You wrap the strap around your foot and then you hold on to the strap. So that's where the strap comes in handy. Or you can just kind of let it go as far as it goes. You don't have to grab onto it. Third stage is to roll this right shoulder back towards the ground as far as it goes. Maybe if you're really flexible in your torso, it gets all the way to the ground, but for most of us, it'll just float here. So find your version of cattail. Maybe you have to back off 1 or 2 stages here. And then this is where we'll stay for a couple more minutes or so. Head and neck can be comfortable. You can roll your head and neck to look over one shoulder or over the other shoulder. I would recommend something that's not painful for the neck here. So if you find your head and neck in a painful position, by the way, you can always stuff padding underneath your shoulder, your head, or your neck as you need to for this posture. Check in with your breath, check in with your thoughts and your emotions, and then to continue to cultivate this idea that even in a still practice, in a quiet practice like a yin practice, things are still moving, they're still changing, they're still dynamic here. Maybe we'll think about this in kind of a classic story about the nature of change, or the nature of impermanence. So there once lived in a country far, far away, in a time long, long ago. Maybe this is starting out like a sci-fi movie, but long, long ago, in a country far, far away, there was a very successful, very wealthy, very old woman who had a vast estate. And she also had 2 daughters. And at some point, the woman died. She died of old age, and she left her vast estate to her 2 daughters. And the 2 daughters lived on the estate and worked with each other and were great friends for several years. And then the younger daughter decided it was time for her to make her own way. So she decided to move to the other side of the country, which back then took a long time to do. It took weeks to travel to the other side of the country, and that's what she did. We're coming out of Cattail here. So release the foot if you have the foot clasp. Bend the knee of the extended leg and drag that leg on top of the bottom leg. This makes it easier to just roll back onto your back. A little bit of rebound and reverberation here. So you can draw your knees into your chest. You can move into a waterfall pose. You can do reclined windshield wipers, any other kind of just gentle dynamic change movement to work out the kinks that we're developing on that side of Cattail. And then the other side of Cattail is to extend both legs out and then raise the left leg up towards the ceiling. Lower the left leg all the way over until the left leg reaches the floor. Inch yourself onto your right side. So this is the beginning of the other side of Cattail. Decide if you want to stay here, or bend that bottom right knee, reach back with your left hand and grab that left and clasp that right leg, that right foot here. Stay here or begin to lower the shoulder back towards the ground here. So find your version, find your bus stop, find your edge in this pose. And then we'll stay here for a few more minutes on this side of Cattail. So the younger of the 2 daughters went and moved, started her own business on the other side of the country, and prospered, lived very well for several years. And at some point she decided she had been away from home long enough and that she should just come back for a visit. So she sent a message back to her older sister saying that, hey, I haven't been home for a while, so I'm going to come home for a visit. And her older sister was really happy about this because she hadn't seen her younger sister in years, and she and all of the people, all of the servants of her estate were so happy that the younger sister was coming to visit. They decided to get everything ready for a big party, a big celebration. So the older sister told all of the staff and the servants on the estate that you need to start cleaning everything up, getting it ready for the big party, the big celebration for the arrival and the visit of the younger sister. And so that's what they did. They started going around and preparing everything, eating the food and cleaning out rooms. And some of the servants were cleaning out this den, some part of this estate here. So we have about a couple more minutes to go here on this side. And as the servants were cleaning out, one of the servants discovered a very well concealed space in this old den. And they opened up the space, and behind the space was a small box, very cleverly concealed, very cleverly hidden. He caught it. So the servants took the box and brought it to the older sister. And so the older sister took the box from the servant and opened the box and found 2 rings inside of the box. One of the rings was this elegant gold ring, 24-karat gold ring with intricate carvings and designs into the rings and huge elaborate gems, so a diamond and a ruby, a sapphire, an emerald, all set into this gorgeous, amazing, magnificent ring. And the other ring in the box was a plain silver ring, no gems, no markings, just an absolutely plain silver ring. And the older sister, when she saw the golden ring, though, she thought to herself, she really wanted that golden ring. And so she decided to hatch a little bit of a plan to be able to hold on to that golden ring. We just have a couple more breaths in this posture, and then we can stop holding on to this posture. If that's what we've been doing, we can go ahead and release it. So when you're ready, slowly begin to move yourself out. Notice the change. Notice the change in coming out of the posture that you've been in for several minutes. Slowly bring yourself back onto your back. Do whatever little kind of movements that you need to do to work out any kinks here. Maybe a nice forward bend, so maybe just bringing your knees into your chest is a good idea. And then roll yourself over, bring yourself up to seated. And then we'll get ready for this next posture known as half saddle pose. Now, half saddle is not for everybody, so there'll be an alternative. The alternative is Sphinx, and I'll demonstrate Sphinx after half saddle. This is where a bolster or 2 or 5 might be handy here. So you can also do this without a bolster. So maybe you just have to experiment. This is a part of practice, is to decide if this works or not. So you're seated with legs out in front. Bolster with the narrow end up against the back side of your torso. And then bend the right knee, bring the right heel on the outside of the right knee here. This is the beginning of half saddle. Maybe this is already intense here. By the way, I don't want to pay any attention to my heel. Some of you will have your foot out to the side. Some will be on the top of the foot. Doesn't matter what the orientation of the foot is. It does matter that you're not hurting that heel here. But if you are, if this is painful, or if it's painful in the knee, then maybe Sphinx is a more appropriate posture here. I'll get done demonstrating this half saddle pose. So you can stay here seated upright, or you can slowly begin to lower yourself back, either onto the floor or onto your bolster, or just onto your hands here. And this knee can float, it can move out to the side, it can wander as long as it's not in pain. Now, if it is painful because it's feeling a little bit unstable, you can always try to stuff a pillow underneath that knee. Or maybe it's just too unstable, too painful, in which case Sphinx is a better option. So for Sphinx, bring yourself to lay on your belly, legs extended out front. Bring your elbows underneath your shoulder width apart. And then allow your torso to just soften and sink and relax here. So saddle is a very subtle back bend in the lower back. And that's what Sphinx is too. That's why Sphinx is an alternative here. So you can try Sphinx. I have to do Sphinx twice, but Sphinx is a really, really good posture for back bending posture here. Or you'll stay in saddle for a couple more minutes here. your amount of time here. So again, tune in to how everything feels and make adjustments. Maybe you're not feeling much of anything at all. You're using a bolster. Maybe try it without the bolster then. Or maybe things are feeling beyond uncomfortable. And now there's some desperation and some physical pain involved, or maybe some mental pain. In which case, go ahead and maybe switch to Sphinx, or even just rest here for a while. So back to our story. A few days later, the younger sister arrives at her mother's old estate where her older sister lives, and they have a grand party, a grand celebration, a grand feast in celebration of the younger sister coming back for a visit. And it's at this celebration that the older sister presents the box that the servants found hidden in the den. And so both the daughters realize that these two rings must have been something very valuable to their mother, which is why she hid them so cleverly. And the older sister was talking to the younger sister, and she said, our mother hid these two rings. They must be very valuable. But she says, but I believe since I'm the eldest daughter, I'm thinking that our mother would have wanted me to have the gold ring. And the younger sister said, well, okay, that's fine. I'll content myself with the silver ring. The younger sister was just happy to be home, and she thought, well, sure, there's just one gold ring, so her older sister might as well have it. So she contented herself with the silver ring. We have about maybe a couple more breaths here in half saddle. Now, if you're wanting to come out of half saddle, kind of the easiest way for most of us humans to do this is to roll away from the bent leg. So my right leg is the bent leg. I'm going to slowly roll off the bolster to the left until I can release that right leg. And then a nice counter activity is to extend this right leg out and to just move it around. Test the joints so you can extend and flex the knee, make little ankle circles and then hip circles to just test out that leg's going to be fine here. And then at some point, when you know it is, bring yourself up. We'll do the other side of half saddle here. So decide what props and paddings that you would like here. Bend, this time it's the other knee, the left knee that bends. Left ankle's on the outside of the left hip. Right leg is extended. You can stay here seated up for the whole time. You can slowly lower yourself down onto some padding or all the way to the floor. Again, this knee can float. It can kind of wander around. It can be out wide if it needs to be. Here, this is yin, so we're relaxing the muscles and letting the connective tissue just kind of generate its own tensions here. And if this is not working for you, try another round of Sphinx here, or maybe even seal a deeper back bend. And then just settle here for a little while longer here. So the visit went really well. The celebration was wonderful. And then at the end of the visit, the younger sister began the long journey back to where she lived on the other side of the country. And as she was journeying back, she took out the silver ring that she got from her older sister. And she was looking at this silver ring, and she's a little bit confused, because she said, well, it's obvious to all of us why our mother hid the golden ring. It's obviously very valuable. But why did she bother hiding this plain silver ring? So she took the ring and she began to examine it very carefully. On the inside of the ring, she noticed two small words engraved there. And the words were, "Everything changes." And as she contemplated this, she thought, well, this must be some great wisdom that their mother had come up with, some kind of valuable insight. Everything changes. So she decided she'll spend the rest of the trip just thinking about this idea of what does it mean and why is it helpful to know that everything changes. We'll stay here for maybe about another minute or so before we change this posture. If you're done with this pose, feel free to come out when you feel like it here, or feel free to marinate a little bit longer as well. So the younger daughter got back home and she kind of threw herself into her business being similar to what her mother did. And it was springtime. And it turned out in the spring, the business did really, really well. She was making money hand over fist, having a great time. But as her business was just taking off and flourishing, she remembered the ring that she got from her older sister, the plain silver ring that said everything changes. And so remembering that, she didn't get too carried away with her success and prosperity. She kind of stayed a little bit mellow. Didn't get too crazy with throwing around money. And then the summer came and went, and then the fall came. And in the fall, a completely different story. So we slowly come out of this posture here. Again, slowly roll away from the bent leg if you're in half saddle, until you can release it. Same procedure here. Oh, you might really feel the reverberation from that. So do a systems check here. Check out that leg, the movement of that leg with small movements, checking out the joints here to make sure it still works. Maybe bring some blood circulation back into that leg and then slowly bring yourself up to seated. And then from here, moving into the final long-held yin posture, which is wide-legged child's pose here. So for wide-legged child's pose, come to hands and knees, and then bring your knees out wide, so maybe mat width apart. Feet can maybe touch, or maybe they don't touch here. And then for wide-legged child's pose, you simply sink your hips back towards your heels until they stop, wherever that is for you. And then you lower your torso down and extend your arms out until they stop here. So if you don't get all the way to the ground and you're kind of suspended in mid-air here, if you have a bolster or a few pillows or blankets, you can always stuff those things underneath your torso so that you can actually rest your body weight onto something here. Now it turns out that since we're all so diverse and unique in body type, that even wide-legged child's pose doesn't fit everybody. So a good alternative for wide-legged child's pose is to just come onto your back, bend your knees and give them a nice hug here. And this can be your yin posture. This can be your baby frog, your wide-legged child's pose. You can hug your knees together, maybe, or you can move the knees apart so that they kind of sink on either side of your rib cage. Doesn't really matter here. All of these are kind of very similar to the shape you're making in child's pose, only you're just flipped over 180 degrees. This can be a little bit less than tense on the knees and the ankles, because if you're squeezing too tightly, you can just kind of release here. So always something to think about if you're one of those people that always cringes when the yoga instructor like me says, let's all just rest in wide-legged child's pose. Well, it's not a resting pose for some of us here. But for some of us, maybe it is okay to kind of just stay here and marinate for a few more minutes. Maybe we'll stay a little bit longer than we have in some of the other postures here. So if this is pretty intense and you are trying to stay as long as I'm staying, then maybe some padding would be useful here. So when the fall came, the younger daughter's business just absolutely tanked. It did horribly. It was on the verge of bankruptcy. The younger daughter was deciding if she should be depressed about this or disheartened by this, but she remembered the silver ring. And she remembered the words in the silver ring. Everything changes. And she said, well, as prosperous as I was in the spring, that didn't last forever. And as hard as times are now here in the fall, they won't last forever because everything changes. Because she had that wisdom, she could write out the good times and the bad times of life because she knew that everything changed. Now her older sister, on the other side of the country, didn't have the benefit of the wisdom of the silver ring. She, being in the same business as her younger sister, same business as her mother, she too experienced the same roller coaster. So that spring, her business did really well. And she was so excited about all the money she was making that she just kind of all just threw it around and got really crazy with it. And then summer came and went, and the fall came, and same issue. The business just went south and was doing very, very badly. The older sister actually lost everything. She lost all her money, just all her possessions. She was so depressed that she was just suicidal. And she just never understood what was going on because she didn't have the wisdom of the silver ring. She didn't have that idea that, oh, okay. All she knew is just things were bad and maybe they were going to stay that way forever. And it kind of really, really hurt her to not have that wisdom. So we'll stay here for about another minute or so. Check in with your breath. Your breath is a good anchor to tell you how things are always cycling, they're always changing. Maybe notice the little nuanced sensations. Notice how they've changed. For some of us, the sensations have increased. Maybe they're getting close to desperate. That's your body telling you that maybe you need to come out and rest. For some of us, sensations have gone away. Maybe at the beginning of the posture, the sensations were pretty intense, but now I almost feel like you could take a nap in this position because the sensations have subsided. This is all showing us that even in a still, basic posture, like child's pose, things are changing. Nothing is constant. So, 4 more breaths here. And when you're ready to come out, maybe root your hands into the ground. Use your hands and your arms to slowly bring your torso up. And then maybe come forward. A good counter pose for this is good old downward facing dog, a nice yang pose here. So our legs were very, very flexed here, so we want to maybe extend them out. So extend root your hands into the ground, extend your arms, and then lift your hips up towards the ceiling as you bring yourself into a downward facing dog. Maybe take your dog for a walk, so pedal your heels here. Maybe a forearm plank is a nice thing to do if downward facing dog doesn't work here. So just for a moment here, to just get the legs extended, get some of the stagnation out of the legs here. And then make your way onto your back. A little bit of integration here before we move into our resting pose. So on your back, knees bent, feet on the ground, and then bring your right thigh into your torso and then wrap your right thigh around the top of your left thigh here. Kind of making, I call these twisted root legs or shoelace legs here, or eagle legs, and then take your hands, grab your knees, and draw your knees into your torso. For some of us, maybe this is as much as we can do. So we just stay here. Or if you can find your feet, grab your feet with each hand, and then begin to gently pull each foot towards the ground and up towards your shoulders here, till you're feeling enough kind of oomph in the hips here. Maybe hold this for a breath or so. And then release, unwind the legs, do this all on the other side. So now it's the left leg, move the left leg into the torso, wrap the left thigh around the right thigh, draw the knees in, and this is maybe as far as you go, but if you can reach your feet with each hand, then clasp the feet and then draw the feet in towards the floor, towards your shoulders, feeling that tension in the hips, knowing where it's so, feeling where it is, maybe holding for a breath here. And then go ahead and release. And then from here, if there's any other kind of movements or poses that you like to do before resting pose, this is the time to do them. So a little bit of free form yoga. And then move into your restorative posture, your resting posture. So I'm going to try just regular old Shavasana here. Lying on the floor, arms and legs extended. Ooh, if you do have a bolster handy, try placing the bolster under some bent knees here. And just see how that feels compared to legs straight on the floor. Here, arms along your sides, extended, maybe far enough away from your waist so the palms can face up towards the ceiling. Head and neck are nice and neutral, in line with the rest of your spine here. But comfortable too, so pillow might be a good thing to put underneath your head here. And then give yourself permission to release the tension of the day, the residuals of practice. Let it all go. And then a good exercise in Shavasana, in this final resting pose, is to notice how even this posture changes with time. Our body isn't moving, it's being supported by the floor. The muscles are relaxed. So we maybe notice more subtle or not so subtle things that are changing. So the thought process, the emotions that we're feeling, the breath that's constantly changing here. This creates focus, this creates attention so that we can stay focused even in this final posture. And of course what we'll realize is even when we're trying to be still, quiet, and relaxed, lots of things are changing. Breath, always in motion, always changing. The thoughts are always in motion, always changing. The emotional aspect of our thoughts, they're too changing textures. Even our immediate physical environment might be changing. Again, you might notice noises, you might notice air temperature changes. And that's the idea. is to just notice that, because if you're noticing those subtle little changes, even in this final posture, then that means you're in the present moment. You're paying attention. You're focused on what's going on here and now. That's a fundamental concept of yoga, is to just pay attention. And when you pay attention, you notice the change. You have reaped the wisdom from the silver ring. Everything changes. At some point, softly begin to deepen your breath. You can start making little movements with maybe fingertips and toes. And then expand that movement into hands, into forearms, into feet and ankles. You can even gently begin to rock your head slowly from side to side. Make a little bit more motion. And then when you're feeling ready, gently bend both knees and roll comfortably over to one side when you get there. Stay there for a moment. And cultivate a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for your practice and your efforts. Most importantly, gratitude for yourself. Your unique manifestation in this universe. The universe is ecstatically joyful that you are here. And then when you're ready, bring yourself up into a comfortable seat. Find your inner ground. Find your center, find your breath one last time, and then bring your hands together at heart center. So I'll end practice with an Om. You can either just listen or maybe join in. The inner light in me honors the inner light in you. Namaste.